Welcome back. I hope everyone survived the polar vortex. Hope it wasn't too bad wherever you are. It was cold in near Fort Wayne, and I have been running from Decatur, which is again just south of Fort Wayne, about 20 miles south of Fort Wayne, to Columbus, Ohio, for the most part. During the polar vortex, really the 2 day extreme cold. About 10 to 15 below actual air temp for lows, and wind chills 30 to near 40 below. I know there's other parts of the country that have been significantly worse. I know there's other parts of the country that have been warmer. We have not gotten a ton of snow. We've actually gotten a couple of snowstorms here over the weekends. The last 2 weekends we've gotten some storms. It sounds like maybe this weekend we're going to get another snowstorm. But it made me want to revisit the topic of winter weather, and a topic that I don't think I addressed in my previous winter driving video, and that is gelling fuel. Because I don't think I've had a winter where I've had a couple of days where I've seen -10, -15, but I've not had a stretch like this current stretch where it's pretty much stayed below zero, because the daytime highs for these 2 days have been around zero. And obviously the longer you have to deal with 0 degrees or below, the more you have to worry about gelling. And if you're not at all familiar with diesel vehicles, if you've only ever driven your car or your truck and you have a gas-powered vehicle, you may not be aware of the fact that diesel fuel gels. It can start to freeze is essentially what's happening. I'm going to put a link in the description because I'm not a scientist. I'm not a mechanic. I don't know the exact details of, it has something to do with the paraffin, the wax that's blended into diesel. It starts to freeze up, starts to gel around the freezing mark, and then around 10 degrees above is when it actually starts to freeze up. But there's going to be an article in the description. You can read all about diesel gelling, get all the information you could ever want. But I wanted to touch on that topic because, again, there's a lot of people that have probably never driven a diesel vehicle and so have no idea what needs to be done as far as anti-gel, the fact that you need to add anti-gel, the fact that yes, there is winter grade diesel, but that is not necessarily enough, and the fact that you can be driving across country, although I don't do it. You can buy not treated fuel if you're in the South, and then travel to a colder part of the country, and obviously that's problematic. So let's start with anti-gel and all that, and what it is, and when you should use it, how it works. And again, a lot more information on this. I'm going to give you just the real basics of anti-gel, when you should start to use it, and my personal. I'll show what I use, and then there's another product that you can carry. It's by the same company, but again, basically, for what I do, I travel mostly in the Midwest, so all of the truck stops carry winterized diesel. So really, I don't start thinking about adding anti-gel until we're at that 15-degree margin. Below 30 degrees, the winterized fuel is probably fine, from 30 down to probably 20, 15, maybe even 10 above. But if I know that overnight lows are going to get below 15, 10, down to 0 or below, then I will add a product called anti-gel. And anti-gel comes in, there's several manufacturers, there's several different companies. Prime happens to recommend Power Service. Power Service is the brand, and this is the supplement. It's called Diesel Fuel Supplement and Cetane Boost Winterizer Anti-Gel. This is the small bottle. This treats 100 gallons, so one bottle in each tank. There's 2 tanks on your truck. Most semis have 2 tanks, some only have 1. But you're going to add this entire bottle. This is 32 ounces. Is going to go in this tank, and I'll have another bottle that'll go in the other tank. They do sell a larger bottle of this that treats 250 gallons that you can pour half in one and half in the other. That's up to you how you want to do it. But the bottom line is that when it gets cold and maybe below 30 degrees, you should start considering using anti-gel. Again, if you drive in Midwest, if you drive in the Northeast, you're probably not going to have to worry about it until it's 15 degrees or 20 degrees or something along those lines. So that's when I start using anti-gel. You can purchase it at the truck stops. If you work with Prime, you can purchase it at the terminals. It is less expensive at the terminal to purchase it there. But what you do is you add it before you start to fuel, and the reason is as you're fueling the fuel tank, it's going to mix in a lot better than just dumping it onto an empty tank and hoping that it sloshes around and mixes together. So when I'm finished unloading where I am here, I'm in a place where the customer unloads. You may be able to see this roof kind of looks familiar. I've been here before. I've done videos from here before. So as soon as they're done unloading me, I'm going to go get fuel. I'm going to put one of these in this tank, one in that tank, as it's currently, I think, -5 right here. But we're on the back end of the polar vortex. In fact, Fort Wayne is supposed to be 60 degrees by Monday. But even still, I would rather be safe than sorry. I don't want to say you can't over-treat your diesel, because if you put 100 gallons of anti-gel in the tank and then try and put, a tiny squirt of diesel in, that's probably not the best idea. But, you're better safe than sorry, as far as, even though it's going to be warming up and it's -5 right now, I would rather add the anti-gel today, knowing that I probably will not need it by, tomorrow afternoon. I would rather have it in there for today. It's not going to hurt the vehicle as temperatures warm up, I guess is the moral of the story. Now, even with that said, if you get to and as I've said before, I have lived in various places. I used to live in northern Minnesota. Northern Minnesota, where I lived, experienced temperatures of -35 plus. I think it got down to -40 in the town that I lived in. That's air temperature. That is not wind chills. They had wind chills of -60, -65 where I was. There's not much you can do when it gets that cold. You can treat your fuel, and you still may end up with gelled fuel, frozen diesel. And that's why they have a second product, same company again, it's Power Service, but this is called Diesel 911. This, again, treats up to 100 gallons, but the point of this is not dump it into your tank because it's extremely cold. The point of this is to add to your fuel filter, because the first thing that's going to freeze up is your fuel filter. And just think about it. You have air and fuel mixing through a porous material. And so basically you half fill, if you read the directions on this, you take the fuel filter out, you try and get all the gel and ice and whatever off the filter, dump this in there, you fill about half of that chamber up with this, and the other half with diesel. Put the fuel filter back in, and then start your truck up. But the only time you actually use this is if your truck actually has gelled fuel. But again, same story. You can get this at truck stops. You can get this through Prime. And it's good to just have, just in case, because you don't want to be in a situation where you have to have a service truck comes out, because it is so much more expensive to have a truck come out to the truck, a service truck come out to your truck, and that's all they're going to do is they're going to bring that bottle, and they're going to perform the service of cleaning out your fuel filter and dumping it in and mixing it with diesel and hoping you get started. So that's the topic on gelling. And if you want more information about why diesel gels and all that, link in the description for that. As far as winter weather and as far as cold and as far as, and I've said this before, if you come to Prime and you have never driven in winter before, you lived in California your whole life, you've lived in Florida your whole life, you've lived in the South and they shut down anytime there's 2 flakes, I've always recommended that now or late fall, early winter is the best time to start at Prime, because you're going to do your training during the winter months. Now, if you come to Prime in April, you do all your training throughout the entire summer, there's nothing that says you cannot stay on your trainer's truck or get back on a trainer's truck once winter comes. But if you plan ahead and realize that you can get your training done while it is winter time. Now, I started in my PSD in January and did my TNT starting in February. And it was a fairly mild winter, but I did experience snow and cold and all of that while I was in training. And to have that experience early on, I think is tremendously beneficial. Once you get on your own, Prime has a captain of the ship philosophy. And what that means is that you're the captain of your ship. This is my ship. I'm the captain. I make the decisions. If I do not feel comfortable driving due to flooding, due to snow, due to cold, due to whatever it is, Prime is going to respect your decision. And that may sound like propaganda, but I will tell you that not only have I experienced situations where I've told Prime that I'm going to park the truck and they've said, okay, when can you deliver? But I've heard other people tell me the exact same situation where you tell your fleet manager, I do not feel comfortable driving, and the only question you're going to get is, what is your safe estimated time of arrival? What's your safe ETA to the pickup to the delivery? That's all they're going to ask you. They're not going to say it, well, but this needs to be there by whatever time. They're going to ask, when can you get it there safely? And as long as you're honest with them, and as long as you don't, I see 2 snowflakes, as I said earlier, because you're from Southern California or you're from Florida, as long as you don't see 2 snowflakes and decide you're going to shut down and then basically not run all winter long, Prime's going to respect that. And that's where I get back to, I have a little bit different perspective on winter driving and what is bad weather. And it's partially because I spent the majority of my adult life living in northern Minnesota, North Dakota, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and driving in conditions that most people don't experience in a typical winter. So I have a different perspective on winter than I realize a lot of the country does. But my philosophy is it's going to take quite a bit for me to not go somewhere. That may be completely different for you, and like I said, Prime does respect that. I think at the end of the day, if you park every single day because you're not comfortable driving, Prime may eventually say, well, we're going to have to get you onto a trainer's truck so that you can become comfortable driving in some weather, get you into the terminal, get you onto the simulators. They do have a winter simulator program, and they're not going to force you to do anything, but they're going to want you to become somewhat comfortable driving in some conditions, because they don't want a truck that sits the entire winter. But they're not going to force you to do anything, but they will try to help you become more comfortable if push comes to shove. So that's my topic on winter driving, the polar vortex and how incredibly cold it is. And again, the one topic that I had not previously discussed is when it gets really cold, diesel gels. So again, go to that link in the description, talks about diesel and why it gels and temperatures and all that stuff. Also the email if you want to send questions directly to me, you can do that. And of course, the link to apply to Prime, it's right in the description. Click on that, takes you right to the application. You don't have to go searching. Thanks so much for watching. I'm coming up on 4 years of being with Prime, so the next video is going to be my, hey, I've been here for 4 years. Do I still recommend coming to Prime? So we'll do that one next time. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.